everyone, I'm Neelam Mishra. Feeling excited to share that BioShots continues to provide educational videos with thoroughly researched and validated content on diverse topics, making the learning process easy and effective to enhance your knowledge and academic performance. So join me here for another interesting video. You will all agree with me, our planet is a marvelous place to live on. Who doesn't feel good after listening to wordshopping sound, going for a walk on the beach, or planting vegetables in a garden? We humans enjoy all this and depend very much on these natural things. Without so many species living on the planet, we would not have air to breathe, water to drink, or food to eat. It may sound drastic, but it is a fact that we would not have human societies without biological diversity. All life on Earth hangs on one greatest treasure, and that is biodiversity, which makes us feel happy. This video is focused on all aspects of biodiversity. From ecological point of view, ecosystems and species are the building blocks that sustain life on Earth. Healthy ecosystems need a healthy balance of living beings. For example, plants need sunlight, rain, and healthy soil full of nutrients. Insects like bees and ants feed on plants and help them make seeds by transferring pollen from flower to flower. The point is, everything depends on everything else. Our nature is like a web made up of many strands all connected together. Break one connection and the whole web may change. Unfortunately, this is what's happening today. Our planet's biodiversity is facing a historic crisis. Human-induced habitat fragmentation is the biggest culprit when it comes to biodiversity loss. Man-made development, pollution, and urbanization, they are all contributing to an ever-growing negative impact on life. So what can we do about it? Both conservation and restoration of biodiversity need to take into account for the survival of humanity. I will be discussing on the conservation of biodiversity, but before that, let's first understand the meaning of biodiversity, its different levels and types, the concept of biodiversity hotspot and mega diversity will also be covered in the video. Let's begin with what is biodiversity. Biodiversity is the contracted form of biological diversity, which comes from two words, bio meaning life and diversity meaning variability. The term biodiversity was coined by Rosen in 1986. Biodiversity represents variety of all living beings, the different plants, animals, and microorganisms, the genetic information they contain, and the ecosystems they form, and includes diversity within a species, between species, and of ecosystems. Next comes the levels of biodiversity. Biodiversity consists of three hierarchical levels, which mean biodiversity is explored at three levels: genetic diversity, species diversity, and ecosystem diversity. These three levels work together to create the complexity of life on Earth. First, the genetic diversity, which refers to the variation of genes within a species. The difference could be in alleles, that is the different variants of the same gene, in a number of genes, or in chromosome structures. Each species is made up of individuals that have their own particular genetic composition. This means a species may have different populations, each having different genetic compositions. As we all know, genes are the basic units of all life on Earth. They are responsible for both the similarities and the differences between organisms. The genetic diversity enables a population to adapt to the environment and to respond to natural selection. Species diversity. The amount of genetic variation is the basis of speciation, that is, evolution of new species. Species diversity is the variety of a species within a habitat or a region. Some habitats, such as rainforest and coral reefs, have many species, while others, such as salt lakes or a polluted stream, have very few species. Species are grouped together into families according to shared characteristics. Species are the distinct units of diversity, each playing a specific role in the ecosystem, and therefore loss of a species has consequences for the ecosystems as a whole. The simplest measure of a species diversity is a species richness, that is, the number of a species in per unit area. However, number of individuals among the species may also vary, resulting into difference in evenness or equitability and consequently in diversity. Next is ecosystem diversity. Ecosystem is a community of organisms and their physical environment interacting together. Ecosystem diversity is the variety of ecosystems in a given place, which can cover a large area. It may be as large as the Great Barrier Reef or a whole forest or a small area such as a pond. Biodiversity from an ecological perspective is characterized at different levels, namely alpha, beta and gamma diversity. This division of ecological diversity was proposed for the first time by Whittaker. Alpha diversity is within area diversity, measured as the number of species occurring within an area of a given size. It therefore measures the richness of a potentially interactive assemblage of species. Gamma diversity is also a measure of within area diversity. However, it usually refers to overall diversity within a large region or at the landscape level. Gamma diversity has no upper limit, but often it refers to a whole region or a country. Beta diversity, on the other hand, refers to the degree of a species change along a given habitat or physiographic gradient. It is a measure of between area diversity. It cannot be expressed in numbers of a species because it is rate or proportion. It is normally expressed in terms of the similarity index or of a species turnover rate. To put it simply, alpha and gamma diversity pertain to the number of species at local and regional spatial scales respectively, and their units are number of species. Whereas beta diversity is the ratio of gamma diversity of a region to the average alpha diversity of local areas within the region. Hence, beta diversity is treated as a dimensionless constant or differentiation diversity. Human interference with diversity at alpha or beta levels has caused the decline in overall gamma diversity of the world. Mass extinction in places all over the world is clear evidence for decreasing gamma diversity. Now, moving on to the concept of biodiversity hotspot, it is important to note that both flora and fauna do not live in the same densities around the planet. The uneven distribution means that certain regions have unbelievable numbers of endemic species, representing one of the most important biologically rich parts of the planet. These are called biodiversity hotspots. The term biodiversity hotspot was coined by Norman Myers, can be defined as the regions which are known for high species richness and endemism. For a region to qualify as a biodiversity hotspot, it must meet the two criteria. It must feature at least 1500 vascular plants as endemics. In other words, it must have a high amount of plant life that cannot be found anywhere else on the planet. Therefore, a hotspot is an irreplaceable area. Also, the region must have less than 30% of its original natural vegetation, that is, it must rank as threatened. At present, there are 34 biodiversity hotspots in the world, although they account for just 2.3% of Earth's land surface. They support over half of the world's endemic plant species. Also contains almost 43% of endemic bird, reptile, mammal and amphibian species. Due to the threat posed to the places on Earth where the most biodiversity exists, hotspots have become even more important to human survival. There are only 4 biodiversity hotspots in India: the Himalayas, Indo-Burma region, Western Ghats and Sundaland. According to experts, this is not surprising given that hotspots represent the richest and the most paramount ecosystems in the world. They host many endangered or vulnerable populations, all of them highly dependent on the environment to survive. Now, before I wind up this video, let me tell you briefly about megadiversity. Megadiversity refers to the countries with a high total number of species, including a significant percentage of endemic species. This means countries with very high levels of biodiversity are megabiodiversities. The criteria for a megadiverse classification are twofold. The region must have at least 5,000 endemic species and have a marine ecosystem within the borders. Conservation International identified 17 megadiverse countries in 1998, which contains about 75% of Earth's total biodiversity. Many of these countries are located in tropical and subtropical regions as depicted in this slide. India is one of them and is known for its rich biodiversity that accounts for 24 to 25% of the total geographical area covered by forest and trees. So this is all from me in this video. I hope the content is quite useful for career aspirants. I will discuss on the modern approaches to diversity conservation in the next video. There are many high-profile conservation campaigns that are going on which focus on rescuing a single endangered species from extinction, such as blue whale, Royal Bengal tiger or koala. But no organism exists in isolation. So if a species is at risk, then the habitat in which it lives is probably under threat too. So the best way to conserve biodiversity is to save habitats and ecosystems rather than trying to save a single species. Thank you for watching the video and paying attention. Please feel free to provide your valuable feedback. Thank you once again.